This is Conversations with a Gender Therapist Q&A, where a gender therapist answers questions from those who are transgender, non-binary, gender questioning, as well as those who love them. I'm your host, Dara Hoffman-Fox, licensed professional counselor. Let's get on to today's question. Today I'm going to be answering a few questions because they are questions that don't require very long answers, but they're all very important questions and they have to do with transitioning specifically. So let me jump into the first question, and this one is from Ben. And basically Ben is trans male, and he has heard that most of the time that somebody who's for those who are transitioning to male and who want to have top surgery, that they'll do hormones first and then top surgery second. And he said that for him, he wants to have top surgery first and then start hormones. He gave the example that he doesn't think he'll feel comfortable if his voice breaks and he grows facial hair, and yet he still has what he's calling an endowment on my chest. And so what he's wondering is that should he bring this up to his therapist? He's very nervous to even mention this because it seems like he's in the minority in wanting to do this. So just from my experience, I would say that I've seen definitely a variety, maybe even a 50-50 split for those who are who start hormones first and get top surgery second, and the other way around. So basically, when it comes down to it, surgeons, those who do top surgery, those who are good at it and those who are aware of the WPATH standards of care, they're going to know that that's okay. So your therapist, therefore, if your therapist is needing to write you a letter for this top surgeon, then your therapist then also needs to be aware that according to the WPATH standards of care, absolutely, you're able to go about your transition in the steps that make the most sense to you. I'm not sure who you're going to see for top surgery, but from my experience, again, I haven't been asked to write letters for top surgeons for a while now, maybe a couple of years. Only if somebody's using their insurance have I then needed to write a letter. It's more so for the insurance than for the surgeon themselves. So definitely find out for sure if you even need a letter to get top surgery. And then if you do, then just so you know, if anybody gives you any pushback, that's incorrect. The WPATH standards of care say that you can indeed get top surgery first and start hormones after that. So that's the answer to that question, and good luck to you, Ben. The next question comes from Emma. Emma is wondering, do people who have transitioned still experience gender dysphoria? It seems to me that they very well might, but the texture of it might feel quite different. So to answer this question, yes, indeed, absolutely. Even depending on where you're at in your transition, even if you, in your opinion, feel like you have completed your transition, gender dysphoria certainly can still exist. I went to a presentation given by Aiden Olson Kennedy, who is a gender therapist in Los Angeles. And he put a sort of like a chart up, like a bar graph, where it shows, maybe it's more like a line graph, where it shows that when somebody first starts, let's say this is how they want to do their transition. Let's say they start hormone therapy. There's a certain amount of gender dysphoria that you will see a drop in. They'll be feeling better in certain areas when it comes to, probably physically, socially, mentally. But let's say it's going to be different for everybody. Over a certain amount of time, gender dysphoria is going to reveal itself in probably different ways, maybe similar ways that were quieter before, but now they're going to be louder. This could have to do with other parts of your body that you are now recognizing, okay, now that I have hormone therapy and I feel better in this way, here's some ways that I'm actually noticing I feel even worse. So that chart kind of went like, ooh. And then let's say you are able to take care of that, let's say through a surgery, and then you're feeling better again. But then let's say there's another aspect in which you're still feeling strong gender dysphoria, and it's going to come back up again. It's going to be different for everybody in terms of how this goes and that sort of thing, but that just kind of demonstrates why, as you go through transition, you're still going to have variety of feelings when it comes to gender dysphoria. Now, if you're even asking about, let's say, if somebody feels like they have completed their transition socially, legally, medically, physically, whatever that looks like, can they still feel gender dysphoria? Again, for sure, this is something that is, you just need to be aware of it going forward, that even though for some, ideally, you would hope that those symptoms never show themselves or you never feel that way again. It's going to look different for different people. It could come up in social situations. It could come up in terms of feeling, let's say, even a sadness around, for instance, not being able to give, to biologically be able to carry a child. I mean, those are different things that come up in waves over the course of a lifetime. There's going to be mourning and grieving you still might be doing around having certain aspects of your life that you've missed out on because of having to transition. So, it's up to how that person defines gender dysphoria. Everybody has their own way of describing gender dysphoria. So if it's physical, there still might be symptoms of that. Yeah. If it's social, if it's mental, yeah, that's still going to come up. So I guess that answers the question. And I know that might be kind of a bummer to hear, because one of the main reasons that people transition is to decrease, and this is going to sound very clinical, but the symptoms of gender dysphoria, and knowing that they still are going to be there to a certain extent. It's difficult to have to swallow that reality, but knowing that it's going to be there, possibly, perhaps, it's just better. That way you're not going to be totally sideswiped if that happens. But again, the hope is that it will absolutely, over time, decrease. So that's the good news about that. Thank you for your question, Emma. And the third and last question for today comes from an anonymous poster. This says, why does WPATH mandate 2 letters for SRS? SRS, also known as sex reassignment surgery, which is also nowadays more so called either GCS, which is gender confirmation surgery, or GRS, gender reassignment surgery. It makes it extremely difficult to juggle a full-time job and therapy sessions that I can't make that often because I will miss work even with a very understanding employer. So the gist of this question has to do with when somebody is wanting to move forward with gender confirmation surgery and the process that's involved with that. First of all, it depends on if you're using insurance or not. From my experience, I've noticed that if somebody uses insurance, it can there can be a little bit more red tape involved in terms of letters that you need to get. What do those letters need to look like? Evaluations, follow-ups. I don't want to scare you off from using your insurance, because that's great if it turns out your insurance can cover for it. But at least right now in 2017, I think some insurance companies are still working on how to streamline that process better. And so using insurance, you will more than likely have to follow the guidelines of your insurance company. If you're not using your insurance, then you just have to follow the guidelines of the surgeon. And there can be some overlap with that, but a lot of times the surgeon won't be quite as strenuous in terms of the process you have to go through to be able to be evaluated. Basically, your main question had to do with why is there 2 letters that are needed. To be honest with you, I actually know that right now there's a committee being formed who are going to do the next version of the standards of care. And that is going to be a big question on the table. Is that something that's still going to be required? Because there is a lot of debate about why does there need to be 2 letters. So just to let you know that you are not the only person wondering about that. And that is something that there's a lot of therapists and professionals out there who feel that that requirement is too stringent. And so I don't think it's going to change anytime in the near future. So let's address the fact that you work a full-time job and you're wondering, how am I going to fit all these therapy sessions in? Well, my advice is that you, first of all, if you feel like you don't need counseling, you know what you want to do, you're ready, Find a therapist who is very familiar with the WPATH standards of care and make sure that they know that there's a difference between counseling and an assessment or an evaluation for surgery. Because you can go in and say, this is all I need. I just need an evaluation for surgery so that you can write me a letter and I can give it to my insurance company or to my surgeon. That should not take very many sessions. I don't want to put a number out there as to how many sessions, because every therapist is different. I'll tell you how much I do. Honestly, I can usually within 1 to 2 sessions get the information I need, do the assessment and the evaluation so that I can go ahead and write that letter for that client. So when it comes to the second letter, generally from what I understand and what my experience has been, is that that letter needs to come from somebody who is a doctorate level mental health professional, and that would be one visit. Again, some people might want to do more than one visit, but just from my experience, that my colleagues, you go in one time, it might be kind of a long visit, maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours, depending on what their process is. But again, ideally, if all you need is surgery and you don't need thorough counseling, then you should be able to get that done within just, hope maybe even less than 4 or 5 sessions total between the two professionals who are doing this. And so, like I said, try to locate therapists who will be able to, who understand that that is what's going on, and they're not going to make you come in for more sessions than you really need. I did make a video about how to find a gender therapist, so I'll put the link for that in here. And if I remember it, I'll put one of those annotation cards up here so that you can click on that and watch that sometime. So thanks for that question too. That was, I'm sure, very helpful for others out there. If you have questions that you'd like to ask, you can put them in the YouTube comments below, or on every Wednesday, go to the Conversations with a Gender Therapist Facebook page, and I will ask for your questions there. And that way it can kind of be nice and organized where I can see the answers. Plus, maybe you'll see a question that you can help somebody else with. If you have any thoughts about what I've talked about today and you want to put some answers in the comments below, please do that too. Be sure to subscribe to the channel so that way you're going to be informed when I come out with any more of these Q&A episodes, which at this point I'm trying to do once a week. So thank you, and I'll be talking to you again soon.